Hey up everyone. So today, I hit the order button again and ordered myself a nice new iPhone 6 Plus to see how iOS looked on a bigger screen. Big fan of iOS on the iPhone 6, but I thought that the 4.7-inch display was a bit small for the modern day, and couldn't help but get one of these in to see how the experience is, and I think I'm quite happy with my choice in regards to the colour, even though it is obviously a bit bling, but I think that differentiates the device quite a bit from some of the other devices I've got. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with the build quality on first impression. It certainly looks like it was built with the same level of detail as the smaller variant. No bend problems as of yet. As you can see, it seems to be very straight, but we'll see how that goes on as time goes on. And very much liking the footprint of the device. Some people have been saying that it's too big and it's hard to hold, but really I can get my thumb around most of it. And it is quite a bit tall though. I think it's a bit taller than the Note 4, pretty much, just a little bit I'd say, but it's not by much obviously, but they do feel very similar in the hand kind of thing. And I think that if you've got medium-sized hands, you won't have too many problems with the bigger variant. So definitely very nice build quality on the device. And if you're familiar with the iPhone 6, pretty much everything is in similar places so far, I think. And I think that Apple have made some good design decisions when it comes to putting like the USB in the middle there, as well as a speaker on the edge, which is quite cool. And not sure why they persist on having like a physical mute button, but nevertheless it's not too much of an issue. If we look at the display, we can power that on, and we get a nice Scarlett Johansson to greet me in the morning. But other than that, we can see that the display is a very nice full HD display, which is bumped up obviously from the 720p, and it's 401 ppi or pixel per inch, and it's 5.5 inches, and it comes with an oleophobic coating to prevent those nasty fingerprints. And in terms of the smoothness, I definitely notice a pronounced sharpness of the display compared to the iPhone 6 normal size. iPhone 6 normal size has a fantastic display in itself, but I certainly do notice it, like for example when web browsing and things like that, everything looks like a little bit more sharper. And I think that if they'd have gone with the standard kind of Retina display on a bigger size screen, it wouldn't have had that kind of impact. So props to Apple for bringing the full HD kind of resolution to its high-end device. And apart from the actual resolution, the screen is very good in terms of the kind of viewing angles and the brightness as well. As you can see, you can get very bright indeed, and the auto brightness seems to manage it quite well, which I usually have on to manage the brightness. So very nice screen on this device, and I think you'll be very happy with it. Daylight viewability, very legible, and can see what's going on in it. Probably not quite as good as like Nokia's ClearBack technology, but still very good nevertheless, and I'm certainly happy with it. Apart from that, you're getting a dual core processor, which I was quite surprised to see is the same type of set up as the smaller iPhone 6, which is a dual-core 1.4 GHz Apple A8 chip with a PowerVR GX 6450 quad-core graphics chip, and that's paired with a very small 1 gigabyte of RAM. And you know, I have to say, just like the smaller one, in terms of the smoothness, it's absolutely buttery smooth. When I first got the device, I thought that it was actually 2 gigs of RAM for this one, but as you can see, pretty much buttery smooth throughout the whole experience. And you know, I have to take my hat off at Apple and really praise them for having a experience which is just above and beyond, really, on such minimal specifications. So don't read into the specs too much when you do see a dual-core processor on this particular device. You'll be very happy with the overall performance of it. And also, another spec bump obviously on this model is the camera. You're getting OIS now added to the camera experience, and I was quite interested to see the performance of the camera like at night time, and just to see basically if there has been any like major improvements over the iPhone 6. And I have to say, you know, in terms of the overall quality of the camera, it's well up there among like the best cameras that I've used on a smartphone, and not just the actual kind of level of detail, but in terms of the brightness, it all seems to be very clear, even in some like challenging conditions. I did take some pictures out and about at night time in the city centre, and there was an impressive level of detail to the pictures, as well as the kind of like bokeh effect, which I do like on my cameras. And everything was obviously taken with the auto setting. I don't really mess around with settings too much anymore. Props to Apple for making a camera that just works, kind of thing, and you know, you don't have to mess around with configuring it. In terms of the actual sensor, it is 8 megapixel, so you are getting kind of like less megapixels than some of the competing phones, but I don't really notice much of a difference, if I'm to be honest. And I think that the focal pixels technology certainly lends to a very fast experience when it comes to, you know, taking the shot and getting very nice pictures indeed. And the video recording, again, it's very impressive. You know, I could barely see a difference between the video recording on the 6 Plus and my dedicated camcorder, which I took some film of out and about at night. And you know, in terms of the zooming and things like that, it's really smooth and very high quality. And I think it's just a shame that they didn't build in 4K as well to make it a bit future proof, because things are moving towards 4K, and maybe they can enable it through an update in the future. 930, for example, from Nokia didn't have 4K, but recently got it on, as well as the LG G2. So, but other than that, you know, extremely high quality video capture on this device, and you get the same nice kind of suite of different things you can put on in the settings, such as slow-mo, time-lapse, as well as panorama mode as well. And I think that it's quite a well-featured camera app. Not quite as well-featured as the latest Denim camera on the Lumia handsets, but still very powerful nevertheless, with HDR and things like that. So pretty cool all across the board. So if you're familiar with iOS 8.1.3 on other devices, you're getting pretty much the same kind of software on this device. I think the only real criticism that I would lend to it is that it doesn't seem to really make maximum use of the bigger display, kind of like on the Note series, where they give you quite a lot of multitasking options and things like that. However, it is still quite fully featured in regards to giving you quite a lot of different stuff, such as this excellent health app, which can really help you monitor vital statistics about yourself, such as if you're into your health and things like that, which is very nice. Also, you get the excellent Touch ID integration, which works just as well, as you can see. Very nice and seamless, and Samsung has a lot to learn from Apple in regards to that. And in terms of the battery, you're getting bump up there as well, up to 2,915 mAh. And you know, in terms of the longevity on the device, I haven't had it that long, so I can't really say for sure what kind of usage you're going to get out of the device, but it certainly seems better than the iPhone 6 so far, and the iPhone 6 is quite a stayer in itself. So obviously it would have been nice if it was kind of removable, but I don't think you're going to have many issues with the battery on this device. It is a very healthy capacity, and we do like to see that on phablets. And other than that, I think that the only other things that are worth mentioning are the, what was I going to mention, the storage options. Obviously, nearly forgot about that. You can get this in either 16 gig models or 64 gig models or 128 gig models, and it seems that the pricing on this particular device can be quite high based upon the storage amount. It would have been nice if Apple would have squeezed in a like a micro SD slot somewhere in the back. I think that it's big enough to hold it, if we're to be honest, so that we won't have to pay like a fortune for a bigger capacity model. But you know, at least they do give you the choice, I guess, and they're not crippling you with just 16 gig or 32 gig like a lot of devices, which I don't think is really sufficient nowadays. And so yeah, you know, I think that I'm really digging this particular iteration of the device. I think that it's still very easy to use. You know, I've not found it unwieldy or anything. I think you're going to benefit from a very, you know, awesome media experience when it comes to the bigger display. And you know, if I was to choose a preference myself as to what I prefer, I do prefer this bigger display. It just looks absolutely fantastic when you're viewing content, and you know, don't hesitate to get this, even though it is a bit bigger. I'm sure that you will enjoy the experience. So yeah, you know, just do a quick review here of this device that I recently picked up. I hope you found it informative. Probably make some comparison videos of this and some other devices, so check out for that. And yeah, like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.